Hello there, fans of a long lost but not truly forgotten card game. This is Duel Masters OCG. I have some cards that I've received in the past months over here from Japan, and I'm going to be showcasing them, talking about them, and comparing them to their TCG counterparts. Let's go. Right here I have Emerald Grass. This is an actual original Japanese card from the first set. These are some of the first cards that were ever printed in Duel Masters in Japan and worldwide speaking. So Japanese Duel Masters started earlier than English Duel Masters, 2 years earlier in fact. And the cards from the first set didn't even have a set symbol. They came just like that. So yeah, some of the oldest Duel Masters cards ever printed. We have an Emerald Grass. We have a Larba Geer. These cards should be perfectly familiar to anybody watching this. Now we have a card from DM4, which in the TCG was called Shadow Clash of Blinding Night. Not entirely sure what it was called like in Japanese. This is Screaming Sunburst. Yeah, not a bad card. This is a card originally from DM6, known in the TCG as Stompotrons of Invincible Wrath. This is Lightning Grass. It's a vanilla card. Here, however, it has a symbol of a couple of decks that were released in Japan that related to Hakuo and Shobu. So you can see the yellow of Hakuo and the red of Shobu. Next we have a card from DM7. This is of course Propeller Mutant. A neat little useful card. Very cheap. And of course it's a Hedrian, and when it's destroyed, the opponent discards a card. Really neat. This is a card from DM8. This is Soul Gala. And it's a Guardian, it's a blocker, it can attack shields, and when you play a spell, it gets plus 3000 power, and you can play multiple spells and it gets up to 4000, 7000, so on. Pretty neat too, and a very good bait for Larba Geer, for instance. This is Tyrant Worm from DM8. Pretty shitty card, because when you summon something else, it destroys itself. But it could be argued that it's a good base for Chaos Worm. I've never tried it, but who knows. Another worm, this time from DM9. This is Venom Worm. It has a tap effect. It gives Slayer to all of your other creatures of a certain race. Not a bad card. It's probably a better bait than Tyrant Worm, to be honest. So yeah, if you want to build a worm deck to evolve Chaos Worm, you are going to have Horde Worm and this guy. These are the best baits. Now moving on to DM10, this is Galek, Shadow Warrior. Very nice card from DM10. It's a human and a ghost at the same time. And when you summon it, the enemy discards a card, and you also, at random, and you also get to destroy one of your opponent's blockers. Really useful. Another one from the series from which Galek comes from. This is Windax, the Savage Vizier. Now this guy has the same effect as Galek, where it destroys an enemy blocker, but being nature, it also gives you a mana. And it's besides being a human, it's also what's the name? It's Beast Folk, exactly. It's Beast Folk. This is Solar Ray. This is a reprint of the a card that originally came up in DM1, I believe. So yeah, it just taps one of your opponent's creatures. Nothing special. This is called Mickey, Rattling Doll, I believe. It's just a 2 mana 2000 blocker that can't attack. Nothing special at all. This is called Angbelt the Spy Droid, and it's It's nothing that special. It's just 4,000. It's just a 4 mana blocker that can't attack shields. But it's better than, but it's strictly better than its DM1 counterpart Dianork, where it has 500 extra power. Yeah, a bit of power creep from DM11. This is called Solar Trap. It's the same as Solar Ray, except it's not a shield trigger and it costs 1 mana less. Hey ho. This is called Byra, the Hidden Lunatic. Also from DM11. It's essentially a Skeeto that costs 1 more and has 1,000 more power. You be the judge. Now this one though, moving on to DM12, this is Valkyr. Something elemental. This one is again a strict improvement of DM1, where you had Shub Skin, which cost 5 and had 6,000. This guy has 7,000, and it's an angel command, and it costs less than Alcadeus, so it's a very good bait for Alcadeus if you want to build an Alcadeus deck, which unfortunately is not very practical. Then you're going to need this guy and Iris. That's going to be your bait, pretty much. This guy is Belmol, the Explorer. It's a gladiator, 2,300, 500, and it owes its extra 500 power to the fact that it has to block. So when the enemy attacks, this guy has to intercept it. Yeah, not a bad card, especially if you want to evolve Aelzonius. Now this guy though, now we're talking business. These are cards from beyond the scope. Now we're moving on to cards that are beyond the scope of the TCG. Cards that were never released in the TCG. This is from the first set that was never printed in the TCG. This is DM13. In Japanese it was called Eternal Phoenix. It's the last of the third block. This card is called Balhols or Balforce, however you want, and it's an interesting card. It's as you can see, it's an opposite civilization multicolored card. It's light and darkness, and has some pretty neat effect. And it has some pretty neat effects too. It's an angel command and a demon command, and it's a blocker. It can't attack shields, but all the enemy's creatures are forced to attack, and whenever this creature blocks, it untaps. So essentially, it's a fusion between Slime Veil and Labile, Seeker of Winds. They're essentially combined, which they're a pretty good combo to begin with, but combined into one, that's pretty neat. So yeah, that's Balforce for you. Now this guy is called Endless Puppet, Lord of Magic. Now this guy is from the first set in the fourth block. Fourth block is the Gears block. One might call them that way. This block was all about cross gears, a new addition to the game that never made it to the TCG. And the whole deal with cross gears is you summon them on, you generate them onto the field. You pay their cost. They're not creatures; they're equipment essentially. And if you want, you can pay their cost again to equip them to one of your creatures, and then typically your creature then gets certain effects. Now, when your creature is destroyed, the cross gear stays in the battle zone, and you can re-equip it to something else later. Sounds like a pretty nice idea, but in reality, it never really worked out, because during this time in the game was dominated by the infamous Bombazar, Dragon of Destiny, that destroyed the TCG in the West. Cross gears never really made it past theory. Anyway, this guy, Endless Puppet, Lord of Magic, Has nothing to do with cross gears. It's just an evolution of death puppets, and pretty neat artwork if you ask me. And it has the effect that whenever your opponent discards cards, you draw the same number of cards they discarded. Which is not bad, I guess. I don't know how practical it was in the OCG, but anyway, looks really cool. This one, on the other hand, another card from DM14, known as Generate Gear. This is Cubella. Cubella is a Lightbringer. Costs a measly 1 mana. Is really weak, but it's a blocker that can't attack. And when it's destroyed, you get to tap one of your opponent's creatures. So essentially, it's a miniature Jilwarka. So it's a Jilwarka essentially that costs 2 less, has 1,000 less power, and doesn't tap 2. It only taps 1. But it only costs 1 mana, so it's really useful, and also it is exceptionally good bait for Wise Starnoid. The next one we have here, this is also from DM14. This is called Bloody Symbol. Bloody Symbol is nothing special. It is it's a gargoyle. Yeah, it's a new race that was introduced in DM14. It's a gargoyle, and it has exactly the same effect as Bloody Skeeto. It's indistinguishable, but it has a neat artwork, and in fact, you can see that this guy, this is Bloody Symbol over here, he's actually sitting in the palm of Baraga, Blade of Gloom. You can actually see the Dark Lord that was released in DM3 back here, and he's actually the one holding the little gargoyle in his palm. I thought that was a neat cameo. The next one, this is Jenny, Dismantling Doll. This one is a very interesting card. It's from DM16, and it was a very, very popular. Jenny, the Dismantling Puppet. Yes, I made a confusion right there. Jenny, the Dismantling Puppet, very popular card. As time went by, the OCG started to accumulate anime references that never really made it to the TCG, thankfully. Now, this card is actually a really, really nice card, because when you summon it, it's just a death puppet that's 1,000, but when you summon it, you actually get to look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card. So it's essentially Scheming Hands. It has the exact same effect, except it costs 1 less and has a body, so it's strictly better. To be honest, Scheming Hands always was an interesting idea, but never really was very used because it was just overpriced. And Jenny actually addresses that. It's a really good card that was very, very popular in Japan. Moving on here. This one is a reprint from DM27, I believe. Koro Koro Legend. It was a reprint set. And DMC27, sorry. It's, of course, Mongrel Man. It's a card from DM4. You know, everybody knows Mongrel Man, whatever. However, now we're moving to DM18. DM18 was a set, a reprint set, that was printed between block number 4, the one with the cross gears, and the next block that was about to come out. And it features all sorts of cards from all the sets before. Not amazing, but the cute thing was that this set contained a lot of alternate artworks. So, can you guess what this one is? Yep, it's Larba Geer, the Guardian Evolution from DM2. Can you guess what this guy is? Yep, it's Rubygrass. Kind of disappointing. Not a very useful card, but this guy, I'm pretty sure you'll instantly tell what this is. This, of course, is Chaos Worm, the one I was talking about earlier. And this guy, another worm. This time we have an alternate artwork that is significantly more ferocious. It's Swamp Worm. Personally, I prefer the original artwork though. This is Stinger Worm. Yeah, not very good. Magris. For once, a card that was actually useful being reprinted. And we have this guy. Can you guess what this is? Yep, it's Canasil, the Explorer, but seen from above. Yeah, nice. I still like the original artwork more. Resopakos. And this guy. Can you guess? It's Zarius, Vizier of Suppression. Such a well-used card in the TCG. Again, you know, I like Akifumi Yamamoto a lot as an artist, but I still prefer the original artwork. Your mileage may differ. This guy looks like interstellar trash to me. I don't know. But this is, well, actually, if you think about it, this looks like a death puppet gravitating towards the guy in the center, who is Vest the Oracle. I'm not sure which artwork I prefer. I think I prefer the new one, actually. It's more interesting. I don't know why Vest the Oracle, which is a Lightbringer and, you know, light, purity, whatever, and he just sits there and has garbage gravitate around him. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, Tentacle Worm. And who is this guy? Well, you guessed it. It's Bloody Skeeto. Look, here showcasing his piercing needle like never before. I still prefer the original artwork. This is Junkats, Rabbit Doll, Wandering Brain Eater. Ooh, I like this one. This is Death Smoke. And I definitely prefer the new artwork here. It's pretty gruesome. You can see the dragon start to rot over here as these extremely eerie clouds close up on him. This one, yeah, somewhat reminiscent of the original. This is Critical Blade, actually. Doesn't look like the original that much, except in theme. And yeah, and we have Ghost Touch also. Now these were all cards from DM18, what we saw right there, and these are all the cards for now. Tune in for part 2.